There are some games you enjoy for a weekend, roll credits on, and move on from. And then there are games like Mina the Hollower, where halfway through playing, you realize that developers understood exactly why people fell in love with a certain era of games in the first place. Not the nostalgia, not the aesthetics alone, the actual feeling. Yacht Club Games already proved they could do this once with Shovel Knight, a game that looked like an NES relic, but somehow felt fresher than most modern platformers. So the obvious question was, how do you follow that up? Apparently by asking, what if we did the same thing for the Game Boy Color? And somehow they pulled it off. Mina the Hollower is a top-down action-adventure game inspired heavily by classics like The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. But it never feels like a cheap imitation. It feels like someone remembered why those games worked. Then we built the idea with modern craftsmanship. You play as Mina, a mouse-like hollower who can burrow underground, leap through terrain, and uncover the secrets of the cursed land of Ossex. The setup is simple. Repair the spark generators, survive the monsters roaming the world, and untangle a mystery that slowly becomes much bigger than it first appears. The story itself isn't trying to reinvent fantasy storytelling, and honestly, that's fine. The writing works because the characters are charming, the dialogue is sharp, and the world has personality pouring out of every corner. But the real reason this game is special is how it feels to play. I didn't grow up as a Game Boy kid either. I was mostly a home console person. But the older I get, the more I appreciate what developers accomplished on those handhelds with almost no screen space, 2 buttons, and absurd technical limitations. Mina the Hollower understands that era on a molecular level. The game has that same compact density where every screen matters, every room can hide a secret, an enemy trap, a shortcut, or a collectible. Exploration constantly feels rewarding because the world is designed with intention rather than scale for scale's sake. But this is where Yacht Club's modern sensibilities kick in. Mina moves beautifully. Combat is responsive, animation is fluid, transitions are seamless. The game never feels trapped by its inspirations. It's not pretending to be an old Game Boy Color game. It's asking what a Game Boy Color masterpiece would look like if developers had modern tools and 20 extra years of design knowledge. The game structure is deceptively simple. You explore, you fight, you burrow through hidden paths, you find hollows to save and upgrade your stats. You unlock new tools and trinkets. You push deeper into increasingly dangerous regions. But the pacing is exceptional. There's always something pulling you forward, a mysterious doorway you couldn't reach earlier, an NPC hinting at hidden treasure, a boss walling off the next area, or a dangerous platforming section daring you to master Mina's movement. Burrowing is the mechanic that ties everything together. It's traversal, evasion, positioning, and sometimes offense all at once. At first, the timing feels unusual. Resurfacing and changing enhanced jumps takes practice. But once it clicks, the entire game opens up. Suddenly you're diving under attacks, popping up behind enemies, crossing gaps that seemed impossible earlier, and flowing through encounters with this wonderful rhythm. Good games teach you mechanics. Great games make you feel smarter for mastering them. Mina does the second one. One thing I really appreciated is that the difficulty here feels intentional. This is not a Souls-like in disguise. A few bosses flirt with that energy, but the overall challenge is much closer to old-school action-adventure difficulty. You deal with knockback, touch damage, slippery ice, darkness, enemy swarms, and platforming hazards layered together. And yet, The game almost never feels unfair. That's a huge distinction. When I died to a boss, I usually knew why. I got greedy. I resurfaced too early. I misread a pattern. I panicked and dodged into damage. The game communicates clearly. It just expects you to improve. The weapon system helps too. You choose from 4 main weapons with different playstyles, pair them with sidearms, and customize your build through trinkets that grant passive bonuses. It's flexible without becoming overwhelming. You can lean into aggression, survivability, utility, or mobility, depending on what fits your playstyle. That level of customization gives repeat playthroughs real value instead of just changing numbers behind the scenes. And the bosses, fantastic. Distinct mechanics, memorable visuals, and fights that escalate naturally as you learn them. There were several encounters where I lost multiple times and still immediately hit retry because the fight itself was fun. That's the sweet spot. The scale of this game surprised me. Ossex is divided into 7 major regions, connected by smaller intermediary areas, and each one feels handcrafted with its own identity and mechanical gimmicks. We're talking sprawling maps packed with secrets, optional parts, hidden NPCs, treasure rooms, mini-bosses, and environmental storytelling. This is the kind of game where completionists will disappear for dozens of hours. There's an absurd amount to discover, and importantly, the variety holds up. One area might focus on vertical traversal, another on environmental hazards, another on enemy density and combat pressure. The game keeps remixing its ideas instead of repeating the same structure with a new tile set. That said, I do think the density occasionally works against clarity. There were moments where a required tunnel or destructible wall blended into that environment a little too well, because the screens are packed with detail. It's possible to overlook the critical path and wander for a while before realizing what you missed. I never found this game-breaking, but it's one of the few places where the old-school design philosophy can become slightly frustrating. Still, I'd rather have a world that's too rich with detail than one that feels sterile and obvious. Yacht Club Games has always had elite pixel artists, but Mina the Hollower might be their best work yet. The environments are packed with tiny details, books on shelves, lamps, wall decorations, debris, machinery, and little animation flourishes everywhere. Characters emote with just a handful of pixels. Bosses have huge visual personality despite the limited perspective. And the animation smoothness is what sells it. Mina's movement feels alive. Enemies snap into attacks with clarity. Effects are readable without cluttering the screen. The soundtrack absolutely deserves praise too. It captures that haunting, adventurous handheld vibe while still sounding full and modern. I know that sounds minor, but genuinely, it gave me the closest feeling I've had in years to opening a physical game box and reading the booklet on the drive home. The fonts, illustrations, explanations, all of it feels lovingly crafted. It's such a specific kind of care that most games simply don't bother with anymore. I do have one notable gripe. The tower sections never fully clicked for me. They're not terrible, and they're not a huge percentage of the game, but they felt slightly disconnected from the rest of the design philosophy. Mina is at its best when exploration, combat, and traversal all blending together naturally. The towers felt more rigid and self-contained, almost like they belonged to a different game at times. Again, This is a relatively minor complaint in a massive adventure. But because the rest of the game is so consistently strong, the contrast stood out more sharply. Okay, I need to talk about this because it genuinely became the thing I disliked most about the entire experience. Not the game, the discourse. While going for 100% completion, I ended up checking forums and Reddit threads occasionally for help with secrets or progression. And almost immediately, the algorithm decided I apparently wanted to see every possible argument about Mina's difficulty. What followed was extremely exhausting. People insisting the game was badly designed because they found it hard. People mocking others for struggling. People accusing fans of being Yacht Club simps. People telling anyone with a different experience that they were objectively wrong. And here's the thing, none of that reflects the actual game. Mina the Hollower is challenging. It has old school friction by design. There's knockback, precise movement, punishing enemy setups, and some intentionally retro jank. But it's nowhere near one of the hardest games I've ever played. My experience was basically, this is a solid challenge, and I occasionally need to pay more attention. That's it. The internet somehow transformed that into a culture war. And honestly, I think it risks turning people away from a genuinely excellent game. This isn't a giant mainstream release where discourse barely matters. Mina is successful, sure, but it's still a relatively niche title compared to something like GTA or Zelda. First impressions matter more. You can criticize a game without treating disagreement like a personal attack. And please, dear Lord, stop comparing every indie game to Silksong. They're barely even aiming at the same target. Other games are allowed to exist. What makes Mina the Hollower stick with me is that it understands something a lot of modern games forget. Density matters more than sheer size. This game is packed with intention. Every screen feels designed. Every mechanic has multiple uses. Every region has a distinct identity. Exploration constantly pays off. And the replayability is absurd once you factor in hidden content, build variety, challenge modifiers, and optional encounters. Yacht Club even included a massive set of gameplay modifiers that can make the game easier, harder, or just weirder. It's one of the most customizable single-player action games I've seen in years. That flexibility matters because it lets players shape the experience instead of forcing everyone into the exact same lane. And honestly, after finishing it completely, I'm left with the same feeling I had after my favorite classic handheld adventures. I want to start another playthrough immediately just to see what I missed. That's a masterpiece trait. So yes, I'm saying it outright. Mina the Hollower is a masterpiece. Not because it's flawless. It isn't. The towers are uneven. Navigation can occasionally become confusing. And some retro-inspired rough edges will annoy certain players. But the overall achievement here is extraordinary. It captures the spirit of Game Boy Color era adventure games better than almost anything else I've played. Then elevates that foundation with modern polish, customization, world design, and combat depth. It feels handcrafted in a way most big budget games don't anymore. And maybe my favorite thing about it is this. Despite all the online arguing, once I was actually playing the game, none of that noise mattered. I was just exploring a brilliant world, getting wrecked by bosses, finding secrets, and having an amazing time. That's the part worth remembering. If you've played Mina the Hollower, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are in the comments. Did it click with you immediately? Did the difficulty feel fair? What was your favorite weapon or boss? And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to Controller Culture, and check out the other deep dive gaming discussions on the channel. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you all in the next one.